Welcome everyone to a very special edition of the MILPA show. This is in collaboration with Baktun 12 and MILPA. We're actually hosting and welcoming our Monterey Bay students, university students. So my name is Rosaura Figueroa Mendoza, and we're hosting again our students from Professor Chrissy Hernandez Participatory Action Research part class. So this is part 3 of 3. So y'all are in for a treat for all 3 parts, being able to listen to all of what the students have been working on during the semester. And again, the students this afternoon, they're going to be actually presenting on just like reimagining community safety and what that looks like in the community of Salinas. And so with that, I'll pass it on to my co-host, Chago.
All right, I'm Chago. What's up? From Baktun 12. Really excited to be hanging out with you all and hearing back, receiving this presentation from this class, Professor Chrissy Hernandez's Participatory Action Research course out of Cal State University of Monterey Bay. And, this one right here, reimagining safety. And please, somebody from the course, relay the title of the pod again, one more time, one of y'all.
Oh, we're reimagining community safety.
All right, reimagining community safety. Thank you.
Indeed. Mm-hmm.
All right, and for someone like myself from the east side of Salinas, have grown up here and now in this work with you all. This is a topic that, man, I wish, me personally, I wish we were reimagining this idea of community safety back in the 90s, during the Clinton administration, during the crime bill, during all of that. So I'm excited for this presentation, y'all. And I will go ahead and pass it on to Alejandro. Are you
yeah, sure. Hi.
Right on, Alejandro. Okay.
I'm Alejandro. I don't know if anyone else, or if you want me to introduce you guys, or if you want to go for it, go for it.
Yeah, my name's Julian and I'm happy to be here, and I'm also a proud resident of East Salinas. So, this was a cool project for me, and I just wanted to be thankful to just be able to share this with you guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny, and I'm very excited to share with everyone our findings, and I'll pass it on to the next person.
I'm Gracie, and I'm super excited to be sharing what we found and what we've been working on.
Hey guys, I'm Jared. I'm also pretty excited to just tell you what we all been doing this whole semester.
And I think the best course of action next is to just tell you about what the class was, essentially. So the class is just one about social advocacy and just looking at the history of certain communities and different aspects of that. So through this class, we were learning about colonialism and racism, as that's kind of what our country was founded off of. And you can still see signs of it today, really anywhere you go. Also learning about politics and the importance of participatory action research, which is just giving communities the opportunity to have the knowledge that they may not have access to, that a lot of us have to purchase textbooks for or classes for, and allowing communities to move closer to social change with the knowledge that they now have. And on top of that, our group has been trying to focus on like the main question of like whose voice counts, which we've kind of come to the slight conclusion of just like your voice counts as members of a community. Your voice counts as people who, like pay your taxes, people who don't, people who just exist within a city. Your voice matters and counts, and just, yeah, I don't know, community is an important thing.
So our first step, in order to begin our project, we began by looking at the history of policing and what that means specifically in the community of Salinas. So first, by looking into the history of policing, we found that the first police forces in America were safe patrols created in 1704. In 1865, the 13th Amendment abolish slavery unless it was a punishment for a crime, painting a target on the back of the Black community for the police. And officers began stop and frisk policing in the 1920s, and the making of arrests for needless charges such as suspicious characters started. So we questioned, how does this history of police look like now in Salinas? We know that in Salinas, we have seen a decline of the crime rate in the past 5 years. However, despite this, a majority of the city's budget goes to the Salinas Police Department, which is over 45%, a little bit over $52 million. And we now examined the recent calls for defunding the police with the goal of eventually abolishing the prison industrial complex. And something I think that really informed what this process can look like is a recent movement that's called the Aid to Abolition. And I'll go over what those steps are. So the first call is for defunding the police. And the second step is demilitarize communities, removing the police from schools, freeing people from prisons and jails, repealing laws criminalizing survival, investing in community self-governance, provide safe housing for everyone, and invest in care, not cops. So once we looked at the history and what recent calls for defunding the police, we examined the Alisal Vibrancy Plan and Fund the Parks to understand what alternatives the Salinas residents could have if we divested from the police and invested in the community were to take place. So I'm going to go over some goals the Alisal Vibrancy Plan had, and how we found that these could be met if the funds were allocated from the police towards these goals and implementation. So these goals included economic development, and one example is the expansion and increase in access to education, training programs to youth, adults, and undocumented individuals. Another goal of the Alisal Vibrancy Plan is greater access to safe, secure housing and increase in affordable housing options for all. And another important goal that we found is to improve the quality of life by support of the recreation, physical activity, and social needs of residents through parks and recreation facilities. And then when we looked at the Fund the Parks, what we found for the main goals were to create a community of leaders, stakeholders, and users who are connected and engaged with the care and future of the parks, recreation and library system, identify underrepresented groups, and works to improve their capacity to participate in planning and decision-making for parks, recreation, and library services in order to ensure inclusion and build equity in the community. Develop a high-quality park, recreation, and library system to provide conveniently accessible quality of life benefits for the resident of Salinas. So we thought these two plans were really important to include in whatever we decided would be our method of research, because we're looking specifically at the community of Salinas. And we found that both of these plans included the voice of Salinas residents. A lot of the goals that were implemented were by Salinas residents, and we saw that this is what was come up by them. So this is what must be implemented, which is basically what the main goal of PAR research is, participatory action research, like Alejandro mentioned, to voice the people who would be affected, who are affected by policing. So now I would like to share some art pieces that we found that are related to reimagining community safety and policing.
I just want to also add that it's the Alisal Vibrancy Plan in particular is such a good concept, a wonderful concept that was also done in partnership with the city of Salinas. So not only does it get the like it takes inventory of the values and the needs and necessities of the people of like the Salinas area, and the vibrancy plan is presented directly to the city of Salinas and tells them exactly like what would best benefit the community and what will ensure like a safer I don't want to say tourist friendly, but definitely a town that people would want to come to. And I don't know, I just thought that was like really cool.
Yeah, thank you, Alejandro, for sharing that. So first, we have this art piece by Jared Ingebretson and Nikki Ann displaying an image of children playing on a decaying police car and police station. What this art displays happened as a result. Children are now able to play freely and without worry. And it also seems like they planted a community garden. And as a result of this community garden, they are now able to hand free food out to anyone who needs it. This is just a really great example of what reimagining community safety means and what could happen as a result of divesting from policing and investing in the community.
So this picture actually was taken in Minneapolis, and after like the murder of George Floyd, and while it's not like directly related to Salinas, I think it's related to reimagining community safety. Like I just think it's really symbolic because you have these three officers who are like detaining this man, and they're all like in full riot gear, and all of the cost of their gear, which ranges from like $400 to $600, and then you take the amount of police officers in that community, in that city, and it's over 320,000 to almost like $1 million, could be going back to the communities and into education and all of these programs. And if you look at the man's mask, like it's stained with blood, like our country is bleeding and it's broken, and like we desperately need a lot of change. And then in the front, you can see more protesters who are just being detained. And so, yeah, all of this is just happening throughout our entire country. So I think it's really important that reimagining community safety is taken into account for our entire country, rather than like just in one city or one place. But yeah, I think it's really important. This one I also thought was really beautiful because you see like these flowers and like growth coming out of this police car. And then on the hood it says, "We find safety in each other." And so I thought of it as like the possibilities and opportunities for growth that could come from like reimagining community safety and like altering the budget to where we put all of our money into like a city. And then you have these two women in the front just supporting each other through all of that, through all of the violence and like police brutality.
This was from a Black Lives Matter protest, and I just thought this one stood out because the question like how many weren't filmed is really like important, because we see so many like videos of police brutality on Twitter, social media, but we don't even know about all of the ones that haven't been filmed, that someone didn't take their camera out and record. So I just thought that that was just really like powerful. And then this one I just thought was cute and cool because it's just all the people are really diverse and different, and they're all just coming together. You see like the trans flag, a gay flag, and just the saying like we can make this world more magical if we just work together as a community.
I really like that one. It's like very cute and just, I don't know, inspiring. And I don't know, it just gives me a lot of good feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to kill the mood, these are two art pieces done by an LA graffiti artist by the name of Skid Robot. He did an interview with Vice, and he mentioned that being homeless is not necessarily, or it's not a choice, and everybody deserves like a roof over their heads, and clearly people aren't getting that just due to like housing being just so unaffordable. So to show this, he did some graffiti on some walls in front of like the living spaces of homeless people, and just as a way of envisioning what their life could look like. And I thought that this was very inspiring because a big part of reimagining community safety is ensuring affordable housing for everybody. And through affordable housing, you could, I guess, reduce the number of homeless cases, because that's part of the problem. People just can't afford housing in these cities nowadays. It's shocking to see, but it's beautiful.
In the wake of protesters and activists calling for justice and police reform, there's been a new topic at the forefront of the conversation: defunding police departments all over the United States. Activists across the country are calling for police organizations to be defunded following the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. The growing movement sets out to reallocate funds from police departments and invest them into Black communities, addressing systemic issues. Congressmember Alejandro is amongst those publicly speaking out in support of the concept and compares defunding the police to a suburb, stating affluent white communities already live in a world where they choose to fund youth, health, housing, etc., more than they fund police. Cortez took to social media to further speak on the issue.
You have an entire city budget, and half of that budget goes to policing, and a shred to education, a shred to mental health services, a crumb for hospitals. That is mirrored on the federal level. And when we put more money in that than we put into nurses, and we put into counselors, and we put into schools and teachers, we have a problem.
In a press conference, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo disagreed with the idea of defunding the police. However, he promoted police reform with the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention collaboration, an initiative that includes community engagement towards a better police force.
We need systemic reform. Let's do it. Let's design the new police force. What do you want the police department to be in New York City?
The governor is now asking New York State police agencies to take part in this collaborative effort and states police forces must adopt a plan by April 1st, 2021 to be eligible for future state funding. Reporting for BronxNet, Kevin Aline.
So the main point that I wanted to highlight was how AOC, she pointed out that we got half of the money in communities going to policing, and then just little bits of parts going here and there to parts that are just overlooked. And with PAR, I feel like this is gonna change that. I mean, specifically here in Salinas, we have like the policing, like that's what I found out through this class, and that really opened my eyes. Because I mean, me being a university student and not really knowing about my community that much, it kind of just like opened my eyes to the fact that maybe, like, I know for a fact a lot more people don't know that so much of the city's budget is going towards the police. And I feel like a big way we can change that is through PAR. And, just like collectively coming together and just highlighting what we need for the community. More police isn't really gonna like translate into lower crime rates. If we want lower crime rates, we have to invest in the different resources that are gonna create a healthy society, such as, mental health services, recreational services for the youth, and of course education and healthcare. Because I mean, with all the money going to one place and no positive outcomes coming out, like we have to change it. And the only way I see it happening is through participatory action research.
Thank you. That was a really good video. Just a little question that I want to ask you guys. Do you think within like the next year, we might see like a drastic change in the way that policing happens?
That is a great question. And just with all the events that have occurred in this year alone, I feel like, I mean, I'm hopeful that there is going to be a big change. I don't know if it's for better or for worse. I mean, it could go either way at this point. I feel like they could come down harder, or the communities come together harder than ever. You know, it's one side or the other. I feel like is going to happen.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, if I can jump in.
Yeah, of course, go for it.
I mean, I do obviously want to be hopeful and say that recent events are going to want people to be educated and mobilized, and you know, also it doesn't just look like maybe protesting. It can look like in different ways. Maybe if you have the funds to maybe help each other out in communities, like mutual aid, stuff like that. But at the same time, I do fear how it can, certain terms that we're using, like defunding, can be kind of commodified, you know, and that is one of the fears that I have, that it'll somewhat be pushed away and say, you know, maybe we shouldn't use defunding, you know, maybe we should use other words to appeal to a bigger audience. But then I feel like we should question that, you know, at the same time, and say if we're not firm in what we really want, it's like now or never, you know. And that's just one of the steps too. Like I mentioned before in the Aid to Abolition, this is just one of the steps, right? So we have a long way to go, but it's good to remain hopeful.
Wow, that was really nice.
Yeah. Like, let me just add one more thing. Honestly, sorry about that.
Yeah, go for it.
No, like how you said, like, yeah, the whole phrase, like defunding the police. Like, I feel like, you know, a lot of the counter arguments used against that, like, the people automatically want to like assume like, oh no, like, what's the first thing you do when you're in trouble? You call the police. They're not opening their eyes to the fact that, you know, not every single problem that the community faces in their day-to-day lives like requires a guy with a gun pulling up to their house, you know, and like being,
Exactly.
you know, like there's multiple ways that we can go about, you know, the adversity in the communities, basically, you know, and like that's one way that just shows that they're always gonna just kind of use the police as a way to, like, I don't know, like there are protection for anything, like, but no, it's like they cause more, like sometimes I feel like they cause more harm than they do like protection, you know, than they do protect us.
Honestly, police involvement should be like a last resort, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Like if there's really nothing that you can do about it, then you should, you know, like call in the police. Like for let's say homeless people, you know, like sleeping outside of like a restaurant. If, you know, you there should be like a division that, you know, works with that community, or, you know, people having a mental health crisis. People, you know, should be on call for situations like that. And just instead, as of recent, just everything is just met with a guy with a badge and a gun.
Yeah.
And it needs to change soon.
And to add to that, like, you know, there's that saying where it's like they're supposed to be like officers of the law, but they don't really do much like studying when it comes to like the law. Like they swear like they're the symbol of, like, you know, the law, but they don't go to school like a lawyer does. They don't really know how to act in, like, with people. They don't really have the emotional IQ. They just really want to use that force, and they use it to the most advantage, I feel like. And it's just like that's where the problem is. Like they don't know how to handle more situations than other people would, basically.
Yeah, months of training versus like years of studying.
Yeah,
And it kind of shows. But that's just me personally.
I want to say that I'm incredibly proud of all of you. Your presentation is really interactive and amazing, and I've had the honor and the privilege to spend time with you and get to know you, and for y'all to be at the level that you are and in philosophical thinking is really incredible. Of like, cool, like sounds like you've picked up on a lot, and I'm just like really looking forward to just seeing what you do with that information, right? Because you're all talented and incredible in your own way. And so I really look forward to seeing that. And Alejandro, if you want to, Chago, if you had something else to say, but Alejandro, after that, you can jump into just like what was the research process like? So it was awesome to see like the overview of like, whoa, like reimagining community safety, and what does that look like in Salinas at the national level? But then, you know, like what y'all did was really important as well, because you actually made something happen over the course of the semester, which you'll get into, but I'll pass it on to Chago, and then Alejandro, you can go ahead.
Yeah, this is just to speak to the point what you all raised around the qualities or the characteristics of a typical police officer, and then it got me to this idea that has come up for me in the past several times, many times. It's like, wow, these young men, a lot of them young, many times not from the communities that they serve. It's like the ideal, like what would be my ideal police officer, and it's someone that knows the history of the people from the community, the cultural backgrounds, right? The language, can speak the language of the the dominant language of that community, and also degrees in the law, right? A degree in the law. If you can get an MA or a master's in law, man, then I think you're cool, because you are ultimately the judge, jury, and executioner in these moments where where we've lost lives, where we've lost like residents, neighbors right here, and I think I have mentioned this before, but in the last, it will be 7 years this coming spring, March 20th, when it was March 20th, 2014, when that spate of police killings that took place. And then there were like there was 4, and then there were 3 more. So seven in the last 7 years in one zip code. So it's like, for me, it's like they should know the law. They should know the language. They should be able to speak to someone who has mental health conditions, like, rest in peace, Brenda Rodriguez Mendoza, the 20-year-old mother of a 6-week baby girl who was killed in front of her, right here, about 3 blocks away from where I live. So just wanted to share that. Yeah, and I'm just really resonating with me. Thank you.
I'm glad it resonates with you on like a personal and emotional level. It says a lot about how it affects everybody in a community. Like you said, like friends, neighbors, family. It hits deep. It cuts deep. And that's what we wanted to address in our research project. What we wanted to do was we wanted to figure out a way to involve the community and get their insight and their voice on how they see Salinas, the area that they live in. So with that, we made a survey, right? And it was a survey that was designed specifically for the people of Salinas. In the survey, we asked questions like, do you feel like the housing that you're currently in is affordable? Do you feel like the housing that you're in is safe? What aspects of a city do you hold closest to you? So like public transit was an option, housing was an option, more police, more jobs, and all of that. And just wanting to get people's insight, but also to show them the reality of Salinas. So in one of the questions, we also showed them the budget, and we asked like a before and after, like, what are your values about your town? And then after showing them the budget, like, does this budget reflect your current values? And if so, like, how would you change that, you know? And yeah, it was really fun to work on it. And then after that, we gave the survey to Rosaura and to Milpas, and they came in clutch, and they shared it along their social media. We tried to share it to classmates as well, just to spread it out to people of Salinas, so we could get, you know, better responses, more responses that just better reflect the Salinas area, you know? Grace, how did that turn out?
It turned out really well. Our data, at first we were pretty nervous because the first couple of days we weren't really getting much. So we were like, how's this gonna go? How's this gonna go down? Are we even gonna have enough to take anything from this? But we ended up getting enough. And our age range was pretty good. It was like 18 to 39. We also had a very diverse group of people that completed our survey. And they were all kind of like around the same areas of Salinas because we took zip codes. We were able to like locate where these people were actually like from in the city of Salinas. So when we asked what services were most important to them, they answered like mental health and substance abuse programs, affordable and quality housing, healthcare that's affordable and like they can get, livable wages, which also ties back to like housing. Like if you don't have livable wages, you can't afford housing, obviously. And they also mentioned like playgrounds, parks, recreational services, stuff to just uplift the community. But when it came to housing, a lot of them said that they did feel safe in their housing and that it met their needs. It's just like the terms of like, is it affordable? And that's like where things just dropped off. Like it's just really hard to get housing. And then we asked about the police and like how they felt about the relationship between the community of Salinas and the police force. And it was really a mixed bag. Most people said kind of poor to fair relationship. There was few responses that said it was good. They felt that just the police budget could just be a lot like better, like spaced out, like education for youth. So there's less criminalization. Like there was a lot of emphasis on youth programs and just helping the youth a lot so the same patterns, I guess, don't keep happening. And they also they mentioned that like there's certain areas of Salinas, like South Side Salinas, that are like stereotyped by police and like targeted and over criminalized for like no actual reason that they can see. And they also just responded that like to better like the community, they want to see like better education systems, better services, again, emphasis on like a lot more opportunities for the youth, more job opportunities, which would just really improve public safety. And then when it came to the budgeting process, most people said that they don't feel included like in the process at all, and that their values aren't really like represented in the budget. And then when we showed them the diagram of the budget, most people responded that like too much money was going into the police and that they should invest more in like mental health services, like I said, the youth, education, and other resources. And all in all, they just really, like I said, emphasized youth programs. And they agreed that they all really, like most wanted to get involved with issues in their community, and we gave them resources to do so. So what this really tells us is just a lot of people, yes, they do feel safe in their housing in the city of Salinas, but it's not necessarily like affordable for them, and they want to see more job opportunities, just more services and resources, and less focus on criminalization and policing.
I would love to have seen how this process would have looked like if we didn't have the COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
You know, us being like all together, you know, and actually being able to like interact with the community that we're, you know, researching. And so, you know, like, yeah, we had to come up with surveys. You know, we had to find the loopholes to kind of just be able to research and come up with findings, how the community feels about reimagining community safety. But the process that we used was really effective in finding like the general knowledge the community's knowledge on the city's budget. But it goes to show like what the community can do when they come together. Like the PAR process really does. You're not only researching the community, but you're creating change, and you're like being able to have the data in your hands and being able to make something happen.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, like Julian was saying, I think through this whole process, like we really got to see what PAR is, and I think it was really cool that, like, despite like we're all so far away, and even though like Julian's really the only one in our group from Salinas, we were able to like make a really big difference and actually have an impact on the community, and like through all the research and through the surveys and even our social media posts at the beginning of the semester in the project, like we were really able to reach out to the Salinas community, and it wasn't. I don't really think. I'm kind of speaking for myself here. I don't really know about my group, but I didn't think it was super easy at first to get started because we didn't know what we were getting into. But I think we were all able to really make it work, and we all came together to create something really great. And through like all the help with our community partners from like MILPA and Baktun 12, yeah, we also want to thank you guys for all of your help and just making this all possible, and Chrissy as well. So with that, I think I'll pass it back to Rosara or Chago.
That's cool. I'm just realizing, like, okay, so Julian, you're the only one from here, bro. Everybody else. So Alejandro, where you from, bro?
I'm from the Central Valley, small town called Porterville. It's kind of near Bakersfield.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Your family's got a background in ag and farm work.
Not necessarily. Yeah, a little bit. So a lot of my family works out here in the fields that we have. Just like oranges, apples, like walnuts and stuff. But like not necessarily, I guess, like in a place of like ownership. So like not necessarily like owning any companies or anything like that. So yeah, just definitely. Mm-hmm.
Right on. Grace?
I'm born and raised in the Bay Area in San Jose. Yeah, my parents were born and raised here as well. So
what part of San Jose?
South San Jose. Yeah.
Okay. Blossom Hill area.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Jared.
I'm actually in Southern California. I think I'm like an hour above Jenny. So yeah, I'm like a bit of a drive away from Monterey, like 6 hours, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What part? What town? What's the name of the spot?
It's kind of like a small town, Rancho Santa Margarita. It's it's like maybe an hour drive from LA, I would say.
All right. Jenny.
I am from Chula Vista, which is in San Diego, southern San Diego. Born and raised here in Chula Vista, and spent a lot of time in TJ, Mexico. So I'm really in touch with my with my roots. That's
okay. Right, you're right. You're on the border. You're right on the border, huh? Like,
yeah, for sure. Like 10 minutes away.
That's kind of awesome. We imagine what that must be like, over here. But I feel like every town is a border town, especially Salinas.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think, Rosaura?
I mean, it's hard not to be biased. I spent time with these folks like all throughout the semester, and it's like going from like the confusion of what the heck are we doing to like, y'all, hopefully you because you made a difference, right? Like everything that you've done, all the time, effort, whatever frustrations you felt, whatever like late nights you've had, like it's all going towards like a wider purpose of chipping away at the conversation that MILPA, Baktun 12, a lot of organizations have been doing in Salinas, and just like everything that you've done has been really important. So it's hard not to be biased and like feel super proud and be like, oh my God, like y'all are amazing, right? Because you did such a good job. And I hope that you do feel like you have made a difference. And anybody that is not familiar with the survey is actually available on the MILPA Instagram. If you just click into our link tree, it's on there, it's going to be available. And since they're going to be talking about the budget next year, the anticipated date for Salinas, I believe, is January, just definitely next year. being able to talk about, like, continue the conversation on the budget and the needs of the community, right? We did have a conversation in October in Salinas about the budget, and it's just like an ongoing thing. And there's always a frustration because even though the community shows up, and obviously during COVID, it's different, right? Like, people giving public comments is different. Usually we try to do a sign-on letter to try to make it easier. People can email, but people can't call in, they can't Zoom, they can't show up, right, to Salinas. So it's hard to kind of, like, it looks different to show up and actually speak out. But then when people actually do show up, it's like, a lot of the times it feels like the elected officials and the city staff are just going to go ahead and do what they think is best, which usually is the status quo of, like, well, we're going to keep funding the way it is, right? And so it can be really, really frustrating for people. And maybe Chago can attest to this, being a person from East Salinas, right? That a lot of people have put in time and effort to try to change the conversation, and sometimes it just takes time, right? So anybody who hasn't filled out the survey, feel free to fill out the survey. But just my final question is just, like, any final takeaways, anything that really stood out to you in this search for information, in this community engagement that really stood out to you? Feel free to take it away, whoever. Jen.
Personally, I have to really give credit to this class and this group, along with all the research that we did. I've never heard of PAR before this. And I just feel like with everything that we learned in class and everything that we put into practice throughout this entire group project over the span of the semester, I know that at some point in my career, at least, I'll have to, like, do research and I guess, like, take or just get involved in my community as well. And I feel like this class and this group has, like, given me a proper, I guess, introduction to the whole process of, like, participatory action research. And I just want to say, like, thank you to Rosaura and Chago and Alexis for just, I don't know, helping us the entire way through, because we were lost for like a solid 2-3 weeks in the beginning. And I feel like we hit it, like, really hard around midway through. It's just, y'all are great.
Yeah, I do want to add on to that. Before this course, I just looked at research as, like, something that's very scientific. I never thought that it's something that could potentially help communities and improve the world potentially. And I just think I learned that we all have something to contribute in our own special way. And we could take that not only for this course, but to improve our communities. We don't have to have a lot of background knowledge or certain titles, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We can contribute to our communities in artistic ways. And yeah, this class really gave us a platform to do that. And I really want to thank Chrissy for allowing this opportunity, and for MILPA for, guiding us along the way. So thank you.
It's like, I just transferred into Monterey Bay this semester, so I had no idea that, like, service learning was a requirement at all, or anything like that, or like we needed, like, because I have friends at other CSUs and I don't think they do this at all. So I just thought it was really cool to be, like, just spit right into the community and learn all about Salinas. And it was just really a neat class, a lot different than other research classes I've taken, and very enjoyable.
Having grown up here, and then, when CSUMB opened in 1994, there was, it was like these ideas that, oh, wow, there's a university, and, this university is going to help impact the culture and influence, influence us out here. And, I would hear of, certain projects, but I've never, I can honestly say, like, from my experience, there hasn't been a bridge, or I haven't really seen a bridge or experienced a bridge type of connection that would bring our community, that opened the communities up back to the university, and this is just, and this is just from my own observation in terms of really creating, cultivating, collecting data, and engaging and using that data to engage, right? So I'm really excited for you all. I'm hoping that you continue this work. It definitely, as you're going, this is an unresearched area. And there's a lot of opportunity for that to happen here. I mean, just like anywhere else, right? It really depends on what you're looking for. But you'll find it. The work is framing it, sharing it, and learning from it, right? So thank you all.
Yeah, and I would just say shout out to Alexis Magdaleno and Bernie Gomez from MILPA that were also part of being here with these students. And so with that, peace out, everybody. Thank you. And
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.